The Undying Day. The sun rose over Crescent Pines, its light slipping between the tall evergreens and spilling onto the quiet streets below. Allison Harper woke to the familiar hum of her alarm clock, her room filled with the soft golden glow of morning. She stretched under her blankets, savoring the warmth for a few more moments before swinging her legs off the bed. Her life wasn't extraordinary, but it was steady, and she found comfort in the rhythm of her days. By the time she reached Main Street, the town was already alive with its usual energy. Mr. Carter waved to her from his barber shop, his cheerful greeting cutting through the crisp autumn air. At Millie's Bakery, the scent of cinnamon rolls drifted out the door, tempting Allison to stop. She almost did, but decided against it. She had to open the bookstore on time. Hours passed like they always did, the bookstore a refuge for the town's quiet souls. Allison shelved books, helped customers find their next favorite read, and spent the slow moments flipping through a novel of her own. It was an ordinary day, and yet, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, something began to feel off. At exactly 7 p.m., everything shifted. Allison was locking up the store when it happened. The air grew heavy, the kind of weight that pressed against her chest and made it hard to breathe. The streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the empty sidewalks. She turned to look at the clock tower in the square, its hands frozen at 7 o'clock. What the hell? She whispered, her voice echoing in the sudden stillness. She glanced around, expecting to see anyone, but the streets were deserted. Even the ever-present hum of life had vanished. Then, without warning, the world blinked. Allison was no longer standing outside the bookstore. Instead, she was back in her bed, the alarm clock buzzing on her nightstand. She stared at the ceiling, her heart pounding. Was it a dream? She muttered, sitting up and looking around. But as she went through her morning routine, something felt wrong. The town seemed too familiar, the greetings too rehearsed. It wasn't until she glanced at the clock tower during her lunch break that she realized it was stuck at 7 p.m. again. The day unfolded just as it had before, every moment an exact replica. The second time the world blinked, Allison knew she wasn't imagining things. The loop continued day after day. At first, she tried to brush it off, thinking it would resolve itself. But as time passed, her frustration grew. She tried breaking the routine, leaving town, avoiding work, even staying awake all night, but no matter what she did, she always woke up in her bed, the same alarm clock buzzing, the same sun rising. It wasn't until the 16th repetition that something changed.
She was walking down Main Street when she noticed a man she had never seen before. He was standing under the clock tower, dressed in a long coat with a scarf wrapped loosely around his neck. His eyes met hers, and he nodded as if he'd been waiting for her. "Allison Harper," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "You're the only one who remembers." She froze. "Who are you? What do you mean?" He gestured for her to follow. "This day is repeating because something terrible is going to happen. You've been given the chance to stop it." Allison's mind raced, but she followed him to a small cafe. Inside, he explained, the town was caught in a time loop, a protective measure against an impending catastrophe. Only one person could retain their memory of each loop. And this time, it was her. "But why me?" she asked. "Because you're the only one who can see what's out of place," he said, sliding a notebook across the table. "This is everything I've learned from my time in the loop. Use it to find the cause before it's too late." The notebook was filled with cryptic notes, maps of the town, and lists of people's movements. Allison felt a flicker of hope for the first time in weeks. She dove into the mystery, watching the townsfolk, piecing together clues, and following the stranger's instructions. As the loops continued, she discovered a pattern, a series of events tied to the old clock tower. Something had gone wrong with its mechanism, something tied to the town's very existence. On the final loop, just as the clock tower struck 7 p.m., Allison climbed its creaking stairs to confront whatever lay at the top. What she found was far beyond anything she could have imagined. The clock's gears were turning, but at the center was a glowing, pulsating object, a piece of technology that didn't belong in their world. It hummed with power, its energy spilling into the air. The stranger appeared beside her, his face grim. "It's a temple stabilizer," he said. "It's been keeping the town safe for decades, but now it's failing. If we don't fix it, Crescent Pines will collapse into the void." Together, they worked to repair the device, racing against the clock as its glow dimmed. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, Allison found the final piece a key hidden in the stranger's notebook. The moment she inserted it, the device roared to life, and the clock tower's hands began to move. The next morning, Allison woke to the sound of birds chirping and the sun shining brighter than ever. The loop had ended. Life in Crescent Pines went on as if nothing had happened, but Allison would never forget, and neither would the stranger, who left town that very day, his mission complete.